Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Jeff Walker Books. Today I'm discussing my Wattpad situation with an Inkitt. I have a few titles that I'd like to discuss about there. Today I want to talk about, I just updated one called Lunar China Red, and it is based in a science fiction dystopian kind of like thing where this scientist has, this Chinese scientist unleashed a virus by accident. Well, not by accident. It was intentional for the Chinese government to unleash it on their enemies, but unfortunately it backfired on them as well, kind of reflecting on what's been going on in the world today, kind of the whole conspiracies kind of thing. It kind of intrigued me, so I started writing about it back in 2020, and I kind of went back and forth on it, but I find it interesting. And it's based that all of China went to the moon, but not all of China, because it was only the world was plagued, like everything was dying on Earth, and they had to escape, and now they find themselves on the moon, like the last vestige of China, which they've established this lone colony on the dark side of the moon. And now the scientist is trying to find out what happened to his wife and daughter. He befriends a Canadian scientist that's like the only one allowed to live there with the Chinese, the new Chinese province there. So I've made it a little intriguey because he regrets what he did. He wished he had never started this whole thing, but he was a big integral scientist that worked on it. And the book will eventually shape into him escaping, trying to find his family. But it's just the sort of what happened, and they're not even sure that if any other country survived or is living on the moon or anywhere near. So the book will also deal with that, and I just put up a new chapter of it. I think I'm on to chapter 6, and I keep going back and forth on a few of these stories. I've launched a few stories on Wattpad and Inkitt as a means to get them out there, get some feedback. And I've also had a few, I'm not sure if I'll continue, but they're on there, and there's another science fiction one. Just trying to think if I don't have it on the computer with me right now. But I've got a few stories up there. One is The Jungle Planet, which I'm still working on. The Jungle Planet is about this botanist scientist that's gone with this air processing team, landing on this world entirely made of jungle. And the air is so pure that they have to wear suits to, so they don't, explode from the amount of air content. Because the world is just producing a massive amount of air, the O2, so much so that it's like the most purest form of O2 they can find. And they process it and they bring it back to Earth, but something goes awry in this whole process. I guess they weren't prepared to deal with this planet as it is, because it's nothing but jungle, and all it does is launch spore, and it's got all the seeds running around, and it's hard to maintain. It's like the jungle keeps producing itself over and over again. So it's an interesting book. I'm working on that one too. Mainly more of that one, I think. Yeah, so I when I write these stories on Wattpad and Inkitt, I really try to get a number of chapters going so that people can get a feel of the book. I've got one, the Space Rockers, Dangerous Prospect, about these guys, these essentially not moon, asteroid miners, wandering about in space. I've got that one going too. As I said, I've got so many things on my plate. It's just I can't keep up sometimes. There was one I called the Solopsum syndrome, and I've got to get back to that because that's going to be like a science fiction parapsychological kind of thriller, where a guy interviews somebody that's escaped from a space station far out in another system, only to find out that the crew's dead and they don't know why he's back there and how he got back there so fast. And it's going to be this investigator that goes out there to learn what happened, but it's going to be like a real mindfuck when he goes there. Yeah, I've got that one like way. I haven't even finished a lot of these, but I tend to go back and forth. Plus, I've got my other novels I'm working on. But I don't know what to do in terms of how to progress with this. I'd love to like earn something for what I'm doing. I know that the serialization is becoming popular, especially Kindle Vella. It's hard because I'm a Canadian and I can't use it, but I'd love to use it. There's nothing but success stories coming off of that, but I'm not sure how accurate that is because I only see a few things and it's mostly these trashy kind of romantic kind of stuff that seems to be doing well. And, well, obviously it does well, right? Smut sells. I thought about trying to do that, but then I was like, I have no skill set in that I can't, I don't think I could write like a trashy skin book like that. I don't know. I just don't have that kind of, I just don't have any interest in it. So then I also was trying to push this book into other serial areas, but I find that that serializing novels is kind of complicated. Some people want it, but some people won't. And if you can get it for free, why bother paying for it, kind of like thing. And it's good for one thing. It's good for getting feedback, but every time I put a story, I don't get much feedback. I'll tell you right now, it's unless you are into like LGBTQ romance or working on something that's just out there manga, kind of like Twisted, whatever, you're not going to get much of a response for these places. So when writers ask me, it's like, do you post on there? And I'm like, yeah. And they said, well, what kind of, do you get a lot? I'm like, you know what? Unless you know what genre that really works on there, you're not going to get a whole lot of traffic. I get some traffic, but I don't get any feedback. So it's kind of weird to me. I'd prefer to get the feedback from these people, to be honest with you. I'd rather hear what they liked and what they didn't like. Otherwise, I just go forth and write, kind of like thing. But yeah, I've been focusing on a few stories of late. The Jungle Planet I was really concentrated on for a while there, so I got a good. It seems to be my thing. I get 5 chapters in, and then I'm just on to the next one, kind of like thing. But I do like to backtrack, and I like to, I don't like leaving novels unfinished, so I try to go back and try to work on them. But sometimes I forget my place, and I write in something else. Then I have to backtrack. But that's what producing novels is. You you write a chapter as much as you can, but then when the novel's completed, you go back and you edit and you fix. And sometimes I'll go back and fix a chapter when I've discovered I've omitted something or accidentally put in a different name or something like that. And I think readers will have to forgive me on that when I'm doing that in Inkitt and Wattpad. Really, that's more of my chapter throw-in. You know, like I do a chapter, I throw it in, get it out there, make sure that it, people are interested, and they just, they can point out the stuff that I've missed and stuff like that. So I can go back, correct it, and finish that out. Do I like the platforms Inkitt and Wattpad? Well, Inkitt not so much anymore. Inkitt used to be good for some things, but now I find that I'm having trouble with their cover pages. When I put my cover on, it's either off to the side or it's I don't understand that. It's like it's got a glitch in it. And there's really no way of knowing if anybody is actually reading your stuff on Inkitt. It's you don't get feedback. You can look up analytics and see how many people have read it, but you don't really get a sense of how it's doing. So in one sense, I think that Inkitt's not going to last much longer because there's just no proper structure in that place. They need to overhaul that system immediately. In my opinion. I'm on there, but I'm just like, I don't really pay attention to it too much because there's not a whole lot of feedback, and it's disappointing. And Wattpad especially, they have a good format. Everything's set up. People can respond, and I've had a few good responses for some of the things I've written. Chapter likes but I don't put on. I was writing a novel on there, and then I took it all down and left some chapters up, which I guess people didn't like because it was incomplete. Well, I'm sorry, but it's a novel. I want to make money on it, and I want it to do well. I put sample chapters up so that they can get a look and read it, and maybe they'll go and buy it, and I want them to. And go and buy it. But for the most part, Wattpad is free. I'd rather earn. I know a lot of writers are doing subscription services now, which I still don't get. I'm not one of these people that are tech savvy that know how this all can work. I wish there was some place that would do it for you, but there are some places, but it's hard to navigate this sort of thing when you're a self-published person. I find that I'm not understanding of a lot of things. I try to research it as much as I can, but some of it is more geared towards the United States. And I find that in a lot of these things, that if you're in the States, this does well. If you're outside of the States, you will not do well. So, I don't know whether that's just, how it is in the States, capitalism, all that stuff. But here, when you're in Canada or anywhere else, it tends to not be as lucrative. I don't know, that might not be true for the UK or Germany or whatever, but I personally find that it's not bringing anything in. But then again, it depends on the stories, too. I find that a lot of science fiction stories don't do well, particularly. Unless you're in romance, rom-com, kind of like stuff, then you're going to do well. But as for me personally, I struggle with some of it sometimes. I'd like to know how I'm doing. I'd like to know what people think. I've launched my books out, and I've gotten good reviews for The Long Lost War. Actually, it's my most successful book. So, then I launched Your Service is Required, and the reviews have actually been quite favorable. And for all these books I've launched, I haven't had a whole lot of like 2-star or 1-star ratings at all, to be honest with you. Not since the first book I pushed out, which was the Distant Saga trilogy, but that was a mess to begin with, and I apologize to anybody that read that and didn't know what they were reading. I don't like to go back and correct things, so it is what it is, and it's an example of where I was. I was going to create a sequel to that one, like another trilogy kind of story setting, but then I thought, you know what, it didn't do well. The experiment died. So now I'm just going to focus on doing books. I may do another short story collection based on a few things I'm working on. But for the most part, it's you don't look back. When you've written something and it's out there, it's out there. People either like it or hate it or are indifferent about it. You can't surely change people's opinions. I've had some mixed review about being on these Inkitt and Wattpad sites, to be honest with you. I put it out there. I don't know if it's getting enough traction. I see that the people are viewing it or reading it. I get a few likes, but not enough to sit there and make me go, well, this is worth my time, focusing it on here. But I find that it's a good way to get it out there. And if those that want to read it and let me know. I wish I had more traffic, though. That's the problem. And I am trying to find places where I can say, hey, I've written another chapter, on Twitter and stuff like that. But I find that a lot of people don't go to those sites because they don't like going there. Unless you're like under 20, you won't go there. I don't know. I find that, it's mainly set for the romance readers. And I think really that's where everybody seems to gravitate to. I wish there was like a serial site for science fiction, where science fiction writers can all place their stuff there. But who would read it? I don't know. I'm doing my best I can with as many chapters I can push out. It's getting harder and harder every day because I work a lot and I'm tired. And it's I'm getting on in years, so it's hard for me. Gosh, I wish this stuff was around a long time ago so I could have probably focused more on that. But I've got so many things on my plate right now. But for the most part, the stories I do on Wattpad and Inkitt are generally where I'm trying to get the books going. I want to get them out. I'm trying to get them out. But I have so many titles to focus on. And I know some people will like, why don't you just focus on one book at a time? Easier said than done. Writers tend to get bored of their work unless they're like right in the moment. I mean, I need a few days or even a month to sit down and concentrate on this. But unfortunately, life doesn't work that way. You've got to make money. You've got to do, you've got family. You've got, sometimes you just have boredom set in and you don't feel like writing some days, or you get writer's block. So there's all that happening. But really, you should try to focus, which is I'm trying to. I have a good number of stories I want to push out as much as I can. I mean, now that I've written The Long Lost War, people have been asking me for a sequel book to that, and I'm like, yeah, it's coming. I'm starting to write a sequel, prequel kind of book, where the it goes more into depth about the origin and over the years of what's happened with these clones fighting. That book is on the way. It's going to take a while. Much like the Professor Darkham's Shadow full novel. What a daunting task that is. I wrote short stories of those characters, and it was easy to write short stories. And now that I'm starting to get into the full novel, and I started to think, well, why did I promise this? Because I should have written just a novella, to be honest with you. But I mean, people want books. People want full and explanatory books. So I'm doing my best. I'm up to chapter 21 in this book so far. Trying to explain, trying to make it interesting. My gosh, I've tried to set a time date to finish this book for the 2023, because that's realistically where I think I'll be finished if I ever get through. I tried to set it for beginning of this year, but that was unrealistic because I had so many things else going on that I neglected the book a lot, and it's hard to write for that when you've got other stories in your head. And then I was focused on launching another book, the Deep Contact book, The Massive Planet. I was focused on getting that, promoting that, and it's a lot for a self-published author to launch their own book, to publish, to basically you have to like work the social media angle like nobody's business, and then you get like time consumed by that. And that's what's frustrating to a lot of self-publishers is the trying to get it out there, trying to get it noticed, trying to, push. And then meantime, you're like neglecting other works. So for a self-published author, it is hard. Do I recommend it? Unless you're working on one title and you've got one title only that you can think of, go for it. But at the same time, if you've got multiple ideas, take your time, pace yourself. The Inkitt and Wattpad platforms are good for getting your works out there, getting them noticed. You just really need to promote it. You need to somehow get people to go on there, and it's hard because a lot of people don't like going on to Inkitt or Wattpad unless, like I said, you're under 20, and it's dealing with anime and steamy romance, and that's what's dominating right now. So you won't get any edge or very much traffic that way, unless there's a glorious sex scene in there somewhere. Yeah. So my works are more science fiction, characterization based, dealing with issues. So if you read my stories, I do try to focus on the characterizations because I find it's better to be interested in the characters than the stories that's going around them. But I mean the story around them kind of helps too. But there's been a whole debate about science fiction versus science reality, because a lot of people have been complaining about how science fiction writers don't really write actual facts. And I'm said, it's called science fiction for a reason. It's science fiction, not science fact. If you want science fact, then go read a science journal or something that's where somebody that deals in theoretical possibilities. I mean, science fiction is that. Jules Verne's created science fiction. People were amazed, and they weren't calling him out, going, "Well, that wouldn't be possible." It's meant to entice, trying to spur an imagination of what might occur, and people get too caught up in the technicality of it. What you should be doing is enjoying the book, not trying to analyze the book. Some people just like the technical facts, and that's great. That's called hard science fiction. People that want that should read that, hard science fiction. But you're still not going to get hard science fact. Even when I'm reading Project Hail Mary, by that book, it was a little it was technical, but again, it was a little far fetched. So you sit there and you go, well, there's this organism on the sun. But you sit there and you start to think, well, okay, maybe that might be possible. It's science fiction. But some people think that might actually occur. And it's like, well, unless you actually, have a scientific proof about that, then no. It's made up. Somebody made that up, like algae on the sun. So, yeah, you get a little bewildered by some people that want to, nitpick stuff. Fortunately, I haven't really had a whole lot of that. And if I did, it's been one or two people, and the rest of them just seem to enjoy the book for what it is. I try to entertain. I try to tell stories that, my mind came up with, and share that with you. And I encourage you to go to Wattpad or Inkitt and read any of my stories, especially the Lunar China Red story. I'd love to see more take on that. I am trying to see things through another person's eyes that I've created, culturally, and and people say, well, it's cultural appropriation. It's like, no, that's called writing. That's called imagination. That's called trying to put yourself in another's place, to see the world through their eyes in that culture and try to understand. There's nothing more I hate than people saying, well, you can't write that because that's culture appropriation. It's like, no, that's somebody that's trying to do it tastefully. I mean, as long as you don't slur, as long as you don't try to, try to create it as a way of being racial, how can you have to understand that person. You have to understand that culture. You have to respect that culture. And you have to, as a writer, you'd have to understand that you are living through that culture and not your culture. So there'd be certain things you'd have to incorporate into that. And I find that if you try to understand through their eyes, you would understand the world a little better and people a little better. I think people are people no matter what. I think it doesn't matter what color their skin is, what they believe. People have lives. We all have lives. We should all respect and just learn that we are all here for each other, and we need to stop this whole "I'm better than you" attitude. And you can see it in the world today with all the hate and all the animosity. And the minute that something happens that they don't understand, they all start going bugaloo, mandating stuff, which I don't want to get into. I know there's a whole trucker thing going on here, and I don't care. To be honest, I don't think I care about it, because it's like, I think it's selfish that if you think you don't have to do a certain thing because you don't, and the world's in a pandemic, the world's on the verge of a major wipeout virus, and then suddenly you go, well, I don't feel like doing it. Well, that's fine. You go and die off somewhere and let others live. I hate taking stances. I hate conflicting with other people about stuff, but I can't get into it. People have their opinions. I can't change their minds. I can't be, I'm just one voice out of many. So I don't try to be overly political about that sort of thing. My family's safe. We've all been vaccinated. That's what I believe in. I just don't understand the world sometimes, as the whole chaotic situation has gotten worse. We've learned to distrust each other more. And I blame the internet, to be honest with you. I blame the YouTubes. I blame these people that are throwing out information without any facts or substance. And then other people that are uneducated seem to take that and go with it, and it makes me mad. And now I'm angry. I'm tired of the world being angry. I'm tired of the world trying to one up each other when it's so much easier to be with each other and work with each other. And look at, and Russia's on the poise of starting another war for what? For what? To, I don't know, make themselves bigger? They're trying to be the USSR again? I don't understand. People have their agendas. Politicians have their agendas. It's just a whole schemy world that I think needs to go. It really does. But then here I am getting political again. So I really don't want to talk about it. I really don't want to get into it. I hate discussing it because people get offended at certain things you say. Now it's just like anything you say, people get offended to it. In the end, all I want you to do is read my book, like it, dislike it, give me a comment. Don't give me a comment, I guess. I don't know. I'd rather just entertain. And if you can just enjoy the book for what it is, and, you know, if you don't agree with certain things, you can talk to me about it, you know, like on the comment sections or, discussion pages. And we can just talk it out there, but we don't have to get violent about it. We don't have to get out bent out of shape about it. People need to learn to curb their quick reactions and more thought reaction kind of thing. So I just put my work out there. I want to see what the reaction is. That's why I put it on Inkitt and Wattpad, to show that here's my stuff. What do you think? And then by the time I'm done, hopefully everybody seems to be okay with it, and then I can publish it. And then I'll get more reaction from that point on. But for the most part, people want to... I just want to tell a good story. And that's all any writer wants to do, is tell a good story. And nowadays, you see people trying to stop books from coming out, or... In any event, I think I'll just leave it there. And, so that was my little thing for today. I've written a lot of stuff on Inkitt and Wattpad. I hope you go there. I hope you read some of my stuff. The latest chapter of Lunar China Red is out. Tell me what you think. Maybe one day it'll be published. Hopefully I get enough chapters in that'll be done. I might just make it a novella, to be honest with you, because I don't know how farther I can, books are hard. And if I had more time, I'd write a full novel of each one of them. But I think novellas are the only way I can push it out fast enough. But we'll see. Anyway, this is Jeff Walker, letting you know I'm still here. All right. Thank you very much. And I guess we'll talk later. Bye for now.